Recently, I've created my very first SaaS application in only a few days with the simplest stack possible, without paying any money. I named it Codemizer.com, which is basically an LLM-based tool to analyze your code and detect bad practices simple and fast. In this video, quickly, I want to show you how you can build a similar SaaS in only a few hours without needing to have a lot of experience in coding. Since this SaaS has a really simple stack and doesn't use any database or user authentication, you need to pay attention that this is not a best practice. Therefore, this might not be a perfect structure for some of you who want to create a complicated web app with authentication, databases, caching, search, payment gateway, and other features. But I can say that this is absolutely an easy way to build a working app of your SaaS idea and then add more features step by step. But before going into the details of each step, let's review the big picture. The core of this structure is Quick-SaaS boilerplate. It means that it's a ready-to-use SaaS project and you need only to customize it based on your idea. This SaaS boilerplate is completely free and you can access it through its official repository in GitHub. I'll put the links and more information about it in the description. Basically, this LLM-based SaaS is built using Next.js framework, which can handle backend and frontend at the same time. Literally, the frontend is React.js plus some extra features like advanced routing. To handle the backend, simply it uses server actions. However, the main part of the whole SaaS is prompts, which are basically the business logic of the SaaS. In simple words, with the prompts you instruct the steps that you need to perform on the input data to get the desired result. Then the backend passes the prompts along with the user input to the OpenAI GPT model and gets the results through HTTP APIs. Then the result is returned to the frontend to be shown in a nice format. Another important part that you need to customize based on your SaaS result is the dashboard, which is basically a React component. There we can use our custom charts and elements to show the result in a nice format. After getting the SaaS boilerplate, customizing the prompts and the result dashboard, we just need to push it to our GitHub account and then use the Vercel platform to simply host the web application with only a few clicks. The final part is buying a domain name and attaching it to the app through the Vercel dashboard. With this big picture in mind, let's get started building a coding analyzer SaaS like Codemizer.com. Step 1. Get the Quick-SaaS project on your local machine. To do that, you need to have Git, the famous version control system, installed on your computer. There is a good chance that it's already installed. But if that's not the case, just go to the main website and try to install it by downloading it or using the right terminal command, which could be different from OS to OS. Now to get the project, go to the project GitHub page, copy the link, and then clone the repo using the git clone command. Step 2. After getting the project, let's try to install the requirements and test it to make sure everything works fine. Since the project is based on Next.js, we need to have Node.js and NPM installed. Installing them is pretty easy. Here we use NVM, which is a tool to switch between different versions of Node. For macOS, simply I search on Google how to install it and then grab the installation command. Now to install Node, simply we use nvm install command along with the version of Node.js we want. NPM should come with Node.js by default. After making sure we have both installed, we need to install all the necessary modules by running the npm install command in the root of the project's folder. It's time to configure Google reCAPTCHA to make the reCAPTCHA work. It's really simple. You only need to go to Google reCAPTCHA dashboard, choose reCAPTCHA version 2, and don't forget to add localhost to the domains list. Choose a project name and hit submit button. Now to use the API keys in the project, first we need to copy the sample file for local environment in the root and name it .env.local. Then copy reCAPTCHA secret and public keys and place it in the right place in the env.local file. One important thing to do at this stage is to sign up to OpenAI and get an API key from the developer dashboard. It's really easy. However, the only issue is that you need to enter your billing information to be able to use OpenAI APIs. I should say that don't worry about the costs. Since we are using GPT-4o mini model, the costs will be really as low as a few dollars for thousands of calls. Okay, copy the API key and then simply place the key in the right place in front of OpenAI key in env, the local file. Finally, it's time to see if everything works or not by running the default demo in Quick-SaaS boilerplate. So we just need to run the project with npm run dev command. If everything is alright, you should see this page, which is actually a simple LLM-based SaaS that gets a user's feedback and then does a sentiment analysis on that. That's basically the main idea of the Quick-SaaS boilerplate. You need to come up with some ideas in this structure. At this point, it only accepts text inputs by default, but you can add more features to it, like accepting files from users as well. Step 3. Before anything, it's better to come up with a nice logo for your SaaS and simply replace the existing logos with your logo. One logo for the header and another for the footer. You can also change other texts as well. Simply, you can search for those texts in the project and then try to modify them based on your needs. Step 4. It's time to come up with a nice idea within the SaaS default structure, where you have only one input field and a submit button. Here we want to build a similar tool like Codemizer.com to analyze code and give some feedbacks to the user based on best practices and clean coding principles. So to do that, we need to modify the prompts or basically do prompt engineering. In prompts folder in the root, we have sample_prompts.ts file where we can modify the existing prompts. The important thing about structure of prompts is that you can divide your tasks into different sections. And the SaaS automatically runs and fetches the result step by step for each task. That way you don't need to keep the user wait for the whole result. Actually, this is a really common problem when using LLM models, where if the task and its answer is too long, usually it breaks the connections. So it's better always to split it into small chunks of tasks. For instance, here we want to analyze the code based on readability and simplicity principles. We can have some other subtasks as well. I start my prompts with this explanation. I will give a coding script, give clean coding suggestions in order of the following topics. You can add more details to show what you exactly want from GPT model to give you. Now we can work on the prompts for each specific task. For instance, for the first task, which is about readability principle, I asked to do the analysis based on two metrics of rubbish code and meaningful naming. The good thing about these prompts is that you can specify the structure of the output in JSON format. Then the output will be stored in an object and then you can work with the data really simple. For instance, for the readability task for each subtask of rubbish code and meaningful name, I want to have a general analysis, suggestion 1, suggestion 2, and finally a score with regard to that topic. When you understand how this prompt engineering works here, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. After completing the prompts, it's time to check the results quickly to see if they are the way we want them to be. So simply, you just need to make sure the app is running. Then try to open the developer dashboard in Chrome or Firefox browsers. Now enter some code through the input field and then press the submit button. After pressing the submit button, in the console section in the developer dashboard, you should see an object related to the results. At this stage, you won't see any result in the UI because we need to customize the dashboard. That brings us to the next step, step 5. In this step, we want to customize the UI to show our results in a nice format according to the structure of our customized result schema. So go to the components folder and open result dashboard.tsx file. Everything related to the UI of the result section is here, which is basically a React.js component. So you can add any component or element you want. All the result data is an analysis result variable. Because the structure of each task is the same, so we use a for loop to render all the items here. First, we use a card component from chat.cn UI module for each task. Then for each card, we add the result for the subtasks. Now, with a little bit of CSS using Tailwind CSS, we make it a bit pretty. For the final part, which is the score, I used a pie chart here. You can use any chart from any Node.js module you are familiar with. Now I can say that our SaaS application is ready. But to make it public for everybody to use, we need one more step. Step 6. To make your project publicly accessible, you need two things. First, a host, and second, a domain address. For the hosting part, we have all sorts of options and platforms from AWS Cloud Services to virtual private servers or VPS. Vercel is one of those options that makes it really easy to especially deploy Next.js-based applications. For the start, you don't have to pay any money, which is really good if you only want to test your idea. Now to be able to deploy our SaaS, which is a Next.js-based project to Vercel hosting platform, the best option is using GitHub. So first create a GitHub account if you don't have one. Then we need to create a repository in GitHub with any name we want. Now we want to push the project in our local machine to the repository in the GitHub I just created. To do that, you need to run the commands you see on the screen in your local terminal. Now that we have our project in GitHub as well, it's time to deploy the project into Vercel. After going to Vercel website, click on the Start Deploy button. Then you need to log in. The best way to do the sign up is using your GitHub account. Then Vercel asks you to choose the project you want to deploy. One important thing to do at this stage is to enter the environment variables one by one. Finally, you just need to click on Deploy. After a few minutes, the deployment should be completed and you can simply see the SaaS on a URL created by Vercel. Here again, like how we did it on local, we need to add our Vercel apps URL to the list of allowed URLs in Google reCAPTCHA dashboard. Even Vercel created a sample URL for us, but it's not really good to share it with public. Instead, we need to buy a nice domain name. This is the only place that you actually need to pay some money, probably around a few dollars. I use GoDaddy to buy my domains. Simply choose a nice domain name and buy it. Then in the name servers section, you must add Vercel name servers, which you can find in the Vercel dashboard. After a couple of minutes or hours in some cases, you should have access to your SaaS app through the domain name you have bought. Again, don't forget to put your SaaS domain name in the list of allowed domains in Google reCAPTCHA. Now, hopefully you have your SaaS app available for the public to use it. I know it was a really quick tutorial and there was some extra explanation needed in some steps. If you are interested in building your very first SaaS application the way I built mine, I highly suggest to check the description for more detailed information. Thank you for watching this video. Bye.